Welcome to the Geostrategic Podcast, your ongoing source for clear, structured updates on global geostrategic challenges. We explore the forces shaping global power, crisis hotspots, and how governments react, so you stay informed with less effort. Today we are talking about China's rapidly growing military power.
Specifically their Navy, the plan, and these increasingly sophisticated blue water exercises they've been conducting.
Right. What do these drills really signal about Taiwan, about their wider ambitions? That's what we want to unpack today.
Yeah, our mission is basically to pull out the key takeaways from the latest military drills, see how they fit into China's evolving strategy, and crucially, look at the potential consequences.
Especially for Taiwan's vulnerability. And let's be honest, the massive ripple effects for the global economy.
Absolutely. That's a huge piece of this.
Okay, so let's start with that term, blue water training. When we talk about the plan going blue water, what does that actually mean? What's the shift here?
Well, it's a pretty fundamental transformation. Think of it like this. They're moving from a Navy primarily focused on defending their own coastline.
Sort of a home guard.
Exactly. To becoming a force that can project power globally. It's about operating far, far beyond their immediate shores. We're talking deep into the Western Pacific, the Indian Ocean, key global sea lanes.
So it's about protecting their interests wherever they are. Trade routes, investments, citizens overseas.
That's a big part of it, yeah. Their interests are global now, so they feel they need a Navy that can protect them globally. But it's also about challenging the status quo.
How so? Challenging who? The U.S. Navy.
Primarily, yes. When they send out dual carrier strike groups, for instance, and operate them in areas the U.S. Navy has traditionally dominated, that's a clear signal.
A signal saying, we can operate here too.
Precisely. They're asserting themselves as a peer naval power. It suggests they believe they're ready to play in the big leagues, so to speak, in these really complex maritime environments.
And it sounds like this isn't just occasional showing off. They're trying to make this routine, right? Institutionalizing it.
That's the key development, really, making these blue water deployments standard practice. It improves their reaction time for crises, their ability to work with other forces, maintain a presence. It's about becoming a truly global Navy.
Okay, with that context, let's look at a specific, very recent example. The June 2025 carrier drills. Liaoning and Shandong carrier groups out in the Western Pacific. Our sources pointed to three big milestones. What were they?
Right. Those drills were very telling. First big milestone.
Yeah.
It was the first time ever they had two aircraft carriers operating simultaneously beyond the first island chain.
Two carriers at once, beyond that first line of islands. How long did that last?
The simultaneous part lasted about 13 days, but they kept at least one carrier group out there continuously for 27 days in total.
Okay, two carriers. And you mentioned the first island chain. Just quickly, for listeners, remind us what that is and why operating beyond it, especially with two carriers, is such a big step.
Sure. The first island chain is basically that series of islands running from Japan down through Taiwan, the Philippines. It kind of fences in the Chinese coast.
A natural barrier.
Exactly. So pushing beyond it, especially with two powerful carrier groups, is a major statement. It shows growing confidence, growing capability to operate much further from home outside their immediate defensive zone.
Got it. And the second milestone from June.
The second one involved the Liaoning carrier group. It operated beyond the second island chain for the first time.
The second island chain. That's even further out, like Guam.
That's right. It includes places like Guam, the Marianas. The Liaoning got within 3,000 kilometers of Midway Island and closer to Guam than they'd ever been before. That's a significant jump in their operational reach.
Wow. Okay, and the third milestone?
Just the duration itself. They set a new record, 27 straight days with Chinese carrier groups operating beyond the first island chain. That sustained presence is notable.
And it wasn't just sailing around. There was mention of adversarial training.
Yeah, the indicators strongly suggest that. The thinking is the Liaoning was likely simulating a U.S. carrier group, the Blue Force, the opponent in war games, while the Shandong acted as the Red Force, China's side, practicing how to counter it.
They kept quite a distance apart too, right? Supporting that idea.
Exactly, around 500, 600 kilometers. That's beyond their typical defensive bubble, suggesting higher-level, strategic-type exercises.
So putting these milestones together, dual carriers, beyond the second island chain, record duration, adversarial training, what's the big strategic takeaway from them making these far seas operations more regular?
It suggests a couple of things. First, that China's Central Military Commission probably feels the plan has achieved what they call comprehensive near-seas combat capabilities.
Meaning they feel confident they control their immediate waters.
Essentially, yes. They believe they've secured operational dominance closer to home. And the implication there is, well, they might feel freer to act more assertively against other navies in those near seas because their focus is shifting outwards.
And outward focus inevitably brings us to Taiwan.
Right.
With this newfound confidence close to home, how do these blue water drills and other exercises we've seen connect to China's strategy for Taiwan? It feels like practice for something specific.
It really does. And the evidence points strongly towards blockade rehearsals, that massive exercise back in December 2024. It looked exactly like a dress rehearsal for blockading Taiwan.
That was the one described as the largest PLA exercise ever, right?
Unprecedented scale. 3 major military commands involved, something like 134 warplanes, 60 warships, 30 Coast Guard vessels, thousands of troops.
Huge numbers.
Ooh.
And the area covered.
Immense. All the way from the South China Sea up past Taiwan towards Japan's Ryukyu Islands.
And what were they doing in that exercise? Was it explicit?
Very explicit. Forces say they specifically practiced attacking foreign merchant ships and blockading sea lanes. The plan also simulated setting up its anti-accessoria denial A2AD zone southeast of Taiwan.
A280. That's the keep-out zone, basically.
Yeah.
To stop the U.S. or others from intervening.
That's the idea. Make it too dangerous, too costly for outside forces to get close. They even practiced repairing their own airfields quickly, suggesting they expect Taiwan might try to strike back at their bases.
It all points toward a blockade strategy. But why a blockade? Wouldn't a full-on invasion be quicker, more decisive, if unification is the goal?
A full invasion is just incredibly risky. You're talking about landing troops on an island with 23 million people, many fiercely opposed to Beijing. Potential for getting bogged down, for huge casualties, from massive international condemnation. It's enormous.
So the blockade offers, what, a less risky path?
Potentially. Beijing might see it as offering escalation dominance. It's a slower squeeze. It puts immense pressure on Taiwan, but forces the U.S. and others into a difficult position. Do they try to break a blockade, risking direct conflict?
The goal being to make life on Taiwan unbearable.
Exactly. Cripple the economy, create shortages, instability, hoping that over months, maybe years, the situation forces a political change within Taiwan, maybe bringing pro-Beijing elements to power without a massive fight.
And this fits with their military thinking. You mentioned 3 dominances.
Yes, that's a direct link. Chinese military doctrine explicitly talks about using strategic blockades to achieve dominance in 3 areas: information, the sea, and the air. Control those domains around Taiwan, and you control Taiwan's fate.
The December 2024 drills look like a textbook example of practicing that.
Absolutely. Threatening shipping, setting up A2AD zones to deter intervention. It aligns perfectly.
And it's not just the Navy. These exercises involve everyone, right? Air Force, Rocket Force, even the Coast Guard.
That's crucial. They're practicing joint operations. Navy, Air Force, Army, Rocket Force, Coast Guard, even their maritime militia. Large formations, complex maneuvers, encircling the islands, simulating strikes. It's highly coordinated.
And the timing often seems political.
Very often. Big drills frequently happen around, say, high-level U.S. visits to Taiwan or Taiwanese political events. PLA spokespeople openly call them stern warnings.
So it's practice, but it's also political theater, signaling intent. And it all seems to be building towards that 2027 date we started with.
That appears to be the timeline Xi Jinping has set for the PLA. Develop the capabilities needed for unification by their centenary in 2027. These increasingly realistic, large-scale exercises are meant to build that capability and, just as importantly, make the threat credible, both for a blockade and maybe even a faster strike.
Which brings us to the consequences if they do act, particularly the economic side. How vulnerable is Taiwan to a blockade?
Extremely vulnerable. Think about essentials: food, industrial supplies. Huge amounts are imported. And energy, over 40% of their electricity comes from liquefied natural gas, LNG, shipped in by sea.
So cut out the sea lanes.
And you paralyze the economy very quickly. Severe shortages, factories shutting down.
But the global impact, the real shockwave, comes down to one thing, doesn't it? Semiconductors.
That's the absolute linchpin. Taiwan produces something like 60% of the world's semiconductors overall, but crucially, over 90% of the most advanced chips.
The ones that go into everything: phones, cars, computers, AI.
Everything modern runs on them. So cutting off Taiwan's chip supply wouldn't just hurt Taiwan, it would send massive shockwaves through the entire global tech industry and beyond.
Can we even quantify that? What kind of numbers are we talking about?
The estimates are staggering. Some suggest disruptions could cost industries that depend on those chips up to $1.6 trillion a year. Think major U.S., European, Asian tech companies,
1.6 trillion annually.
and for national economies. Taiwan's GDP could plummet by nearly 40%. China's own GDP could shrink by 7% thanks to trade disruption and backlash. And globally,
What's the global hit?
global economic output could fall by about 2.8%. Now, that might not sound huge, but it's almost double the economic damage seen during the 2008 global financial crisis.
Double the 2008 crisis.
Yeah,
That
right.
puts it in perspective. It's truly catastrophic.
It really is.
But even if a blockade worked militarily, surely China faces huge risks too. It can't be a win-win for them.
Oh, absolutely not. The risks for Beijing are immense. Geopolitical isolation, crippling economic sanctions, the potential for the blockade to escalate into a full-blown war. They might not win easily.
And they rely on Taiwan's tech too, don't they?
They do, so there's a degree of self-inflicted damage. Plus, the disruption wouldn't stop at China and Taiwan. Think Southeast Asia, Oceania, global shipping. The fallout would be widespread and long-lasting.
So bringing it all together, this shift to blue water operations, the blockade rehearsals, the economic vulnerabilities, what does it tell us about China's bigger strategy and the U.S. response? We started with that 2027 patch.
Well, the move to blue water suggests China feels secure enough in its own backyard, the near seas, that it can now focus outward. This confidence might mean more assertive behavior closer to home, too.
And it's not just about Taiwan, is it? It's broader.
It's broader. It's about protecting those global interests we talked about, trying to reshape maritime norms, asserting itself on the world stage. And this directly challenges the U.S. position in the Pacific.
Which forces the U.S. to react. Hence the 2027 focus. The need to rethink deployments, readiness.
Exactly. That patch symbolizes a fundamental strategic reassessment happening in Washington, driven by these very developments we've been discussing.
Okay, as we wrap up, here's something else to think about, a slightly different angle. In July 2025, right when the U.S. put new tariffs on Vietnam, what happened? China and Vietnam held their first ever joint army drill, hand in hand, 2025.
Interesting timing. Small scale, though, wasn't it? Company level.
Tiny scale, yes. But the timing is key. It looks like Vietnam playing what some call bamboo diplomacy, bending with the wind, keeping options open, showing it won't just align with the U.S.
While China uses both soft and hard approaches to expand influence right on its doorstep.
Exactly. It's a reminder that these big military shifts are part of a much larger, more complex strategic game playing out across the entire Indo-Pacific. So the question for you, the listener, is, what else should you be watching for as these dynamics keep evolving?
If you found this discussion valuable, please like, share, and subscribe to the Geostrategic Podcast for more in-depth analysis on topics that shape our world.
Stay informed, stay ahead, and stay tuned for the next deep dive.